That's that means things are going to get worse over time. You're going to see a lot of relationships just, not need to happen. Um, yeah, I wasn't planning to include that, but here it is in the video. You can achieve great things with teamwork and collaboration. Major example that many people may relate to is that when you're looking at sports or are involved with sports, you will give your ability to achieve the goal yourself to someone else who has the better angle, the resources, whatever have you, in order to achieve it. And that's how you achieve a lot of the victories in sports. Reframe that. I'm going to use the term displacement of accountability. If I'm displacing my ability to do something to someone else, I'm giving them the responsibility to achieve the goal. Let's take that framework. Let me define it further. Displacement of accountability is when an individual passes their ability to be held accountable to someone or something else. When someone displaces their accountability, it frees them from being held responsible for the consequences of their actions. This can happen in businesses, social groups, and families. It took me several weeks to really put the words together to define how I see various parts of the world and how I see the ethics of it. For this video, I'm going to give you 5 examples of displacement of accountability so that you would see how I see things. Number 1, anonymity. Username, alias for commenting or messaging. One of the biggest issues over the last number of years due to the rise of social media is cyberbullying. Although I could talk about the statistics of how there is a large number of adolescent suicides between the age of 15 to 24 due to cyberbullying, a recent example is the cyberbullying created by the scenario of many people playing the video game Hogwarts Legacy. Now, J.K. Rowling has become incredibly controversial and just a negative celebrity because of her stance against the trans community. And anyone that ended up playing Hogwarts Legacy, despite it, appealing to a broader, LGBTQIA plus audience, there is still a lot of cyberbullying against those who publicly show that they played it. A number of streamers got a lot of harassment. They got bullied off stream. People who were just hiding behind, their account names, getting in there, lashing out, really just driving people into a very dire mental health situation. It's funny, I actually wanted to touch on an extension of how social media becomes problematic, but it doesn't really contribute to the displacement of accountability. But I guess I can give a shot at it. So there is a Pew Research Center study that shows that because of social media, and just being able, not social media, but being able to look at porn and being able to have parasocial relationships with streamers and online celebrities, they found no need to get into a relationship at all. Like, ever since COVID, with a lot of people staying indoors, they've developed this personal approach, a system, a personal process to just not really engage in being in a relationship with someone. The Pew Research Center study said that half of all young adults are single, 34% of women, and 63% of men. And they were mentioning that young men are watching a lot of social media, they're watching porn, and they're getting a lot of their needs met without having to go out. And it's starting to become a habit. So their displacement of accountability is, instead of following their physical or the tradition of things, they're, if anything, maybe it's not displacement of accountability. Now they're just taking care of that, not really following a process and just doing it by having the online resources to resolve those needs and just stay single. That means things are going to get worse over time. You're going to see a lot of relationships just, not need to happen. Yeah, I wasn't planning to include that, but here it is in the video. Um, Next one, obedience culture, chain of command. So, as I mentioned before early with the sports example, uh, this is going to happen in a lot of places that have a system of cooperation. Obedience culture is oftentimes in religious uh, uh, orders, religious organizations. Um, they will have songs, they will have scriptures, they will have things, anything that symbolizes that organization, that chain of command. Even military will have that. It's not to say that it's all a bad thing. There are times when you can achieve wonderful, beautiful things, things that would benefit people overall by having an obedience culture and chain of command. But what's important about this example is that each individual is displacing their own personal accountability to a greater scheme, the greater scheme of things. Third one is cult of personality, influencers, celebrities, religious leaders. And one big example of this is when, let's say, a religious leader has a political leaning, and through their own teachings, they will convey this political leaning. And the danger in this situation is that you've displaced your personal accountability to the ability to think for yourself to that religious leader. And that's very dangerous because now you're wondering, do I know enough to think for myself, or should I believe this religious leader because if he is the trusted figure of a divine deity, then shouldn't I align myself more to that leader and thus to the divine deity? Um, and similarly with the cult of personalities or the celebrities, if you want to follow the characteristics, or you revere the beauty or whatever trait that you uphold of the celebrity, shouldn't you live like them? Shouldn't you do things like them? Shouldn't you buy things that they are endorsing? And celebrity endorsements, they make a lot of money, so that's something that you have to be very careful of, because you're displacing the ability for you to form your own identity by following someone else because you don't feel like you can develop your own. Another example, groupthink, mob mentality. I think we've all run into this one way or another. And this is one of the big reasons why I am not a big supporter of, group studies. In user experience, group studies is not helpful to find the insights and the answers that you're looking for to be usable towards design, because usually in a group study, you have someone that is strong enough as a personality to say something, and then everyone will be influenced by that. We're trying to find a unique individual insight from each person's life, not being led by one person, which will taint everybody's opinion. So I'm not a big advocate for group studies when it comes to product research. Similarly, there's a lot of social movements that will have a mob mentality, and people will jump into the mob to be a part of it, even for the smallest reason, whether it's for their own or because they kind of agree with one thing out of the mob, just to be a part of that energy, that culture, that force of nature. Lastly, the example I'd love to give is for displacement of accountability. Let's talk about traditions, business, social organizations, and ultimately what wraps them together is it's always been done this way. That phrase is such an enemy to progress and innovation, because you will have people who prefer order and clarity from that order than the chaos that often comes from improvement and innovation and learning overall. And when you have a culture of it's always been done that way, whether it's from traditions, it's business, or social organizations, it will not be a realm in which you can find greater efficiency or greater clarity or, innovation overall, because innovation is not something new. It's just an improvement on something that already exists, right? And so it's always been done this way is always the opponent of progress in this scenario. And so when you displace your own personal accountability to think beyond the box, you are robbing yourself of the ability to learn. Because what's great about making mistakes, what's great about changing the paradigm, is that there's gonna be a very different route, a detour that can lead you to greater possibilities. For example, one of the great things that I found that is an innovation to it's always been done this way is the creation of boot camp systems where people can learn coding, designing, etc. from a non-official academic level. Which mean what I mean say by that is like it's not a university. It's like these individual businesses that try to teach the trade. And that is a break away from it's always been done this way. So yeah, those are the 5 examples I want to give. Think about it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll give more examples of this as it incorporates into other topics later. But for now, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.